Hi Xyy'nai Planet Earth, this is Xyy'nai, and this episode is on the Xyy'nai peak pathway. A peak pathway is, for any given mojo, all of their 8 powers used as they were designed to be for the greatest amount of productive harmony. As we've discussed already, your 4 conscious powers, which are Xyy'nai, V, and Xy, but you also have the 4 remaining powers that are conscious. You can put all of these 8 powers in a ranking, which we call the consciousness ranking, which is the order of how easy it is to access them from your conscious mind. The first ranked is Xy. That's the easiest power for you to access consciously. The next easiest power for you to access would be the power of Nai, and then over to V, then to Xy. Powers that we've covered so far already. But then in the unconscious you have the power of Xy, and Xy is the strongest and closest to the surface in the unconscious, so it's the easiest to reach through your conscious powers. And then up here you have the power of Ni, and Ni is deeper still in your unconscious, deeper still than that. Over here will be the powers of Xy, and then finally up here you have the powers of Z. That's the order of your consciousness peak pathway, which is the Xyy'nai, V, Xy, and then Xy, Ni, Vi, Z. When you experience peak pathway yourself, though, it's not going to have such a technical feel to it. It's going to be real life. It's going to feel a bit like a ride in your psyche that you experience through your whole body and being, and throughout your whole life and every activity that you do. Going along with the consciousness hierarchy, we'll go through the peak pathway. The first part is the charging up phase, and that's basically your Xy, and that's the power that's always there for you, and so you'll never have to start your story. So, like, you know, how do I start doing it? Well, it's already on right now. Your Xy's already on. So, and if you're Xyy'nai, already your Xy is booting up and has been booting up, waiting for you to do something with that energy, and we call that the charging up phase, giving your energy to do what you need to do with your heroic storyline. Then you have the conscious accessing of Xy, which gives you major momentum, as we talked about. Conscious accessing of Nai, which gives you minor momentum. And then you go and you cross the divide. You're going to go across to the other side of your psyche. And over there on the other side, you're going to have your modulation power, starting with your power of V and then with power of Xy. So when you make that trip, you have social dynamics engagements, you speculate on them, you enact your code of conduct speculations, and then you calibrate and gain human principles as you're viscerally experiencing the environment and engaging with the social dynamics. So when you do that, that's the portal to your unconscious, because the power of Xy, your top power in your unconscious, responds to that special kind of Xy that you provide. So when you go Xy, Nai, V, and Xy, that creates a chain reaction that awakens your unconscious genius. And when that happens, you'll feel a general rise in your energetic levels, a swelling of energy. It's similar to the rising in energy of the charge up phase, but now you're feeling your unconscious powers given over to you, so they're interfacing with the conscious powers, boosting them up. So when you feel this boosting of energy, that's going to be called the swelling up phase, and that comes from successfully doing your conscious powers in such a way that it awakens your unconscious powers. When the unconscious awakens, it'll tend to come in what we call a tidal wave, meaning the Xy and Ni of your unconscious will come together as one. They'll also come in a personified form, which we'll talk about more later in later episodes. But just as energy, the Xy comes as emotive resonations, which is combined with the Ni cross-contextualizing, and this will come as a being in your psyche to you. It'll come as a general sensation and as a reaction to what your psyche does consciously. So as you do things consciously, the Xy and the Ni of your unconscious will react accordingly as one compound unit that we call the tidal wave. But then these can separate into distinct Xy and Ni to do things for you to interact with, but it won't be as naturally differentiated as your conscious powers are. The conscious powers, particularly on the momentum side here, tend to be more differentiated. You're able to grab them individually, so in much more aware way. So as you go over to your V here in your Xy, it's more of a reach to do it, but so it's not immediately hands-on, but it's still more of an aware process. So when you go into your unconscious, it's a bit like you're fumbling around for it, or like it's being handed to you from places unknown. So it comes in a package deal, more in a package deal. But you can unpack it into the Xyy'nai and the Ni. Then you have the coastal wave, which if you're doing it correctly, you're going to have energy coming from the Vi and the Z of your unconscious. But that flows naturally from your Xyy'nai and the unconscious. So if all goes well, the energy will continue and take it over to your side through the Vi and the Z, and return it to your native quadrant of Xy. So there you're going to be ready to start the cycle again, and this can be done if you peak properly, a bit like flexing a muscle or going to the gym or something like that, and then you'll have this refractory period. So when you go to the peak pathway and do the Xyy'nai, Vi, Xy, and then Xy, Ni, Vi, Z, there's kind of this but don't worry, that's just the refractory period, and it will immediately start building up again to the charge up phase to begin the process anew. Now all your powers are interacting together all the time, so it's a question of how you access them, how you understand what's going on. So it's not going to be a strict Xyy'nai, Vi, Xy, and so forth. When you do things, you have all the powers working simultaneously, and then you may suddenly need to read a paper or say something, and that goes straight to, let's say, to your Xy. So you can go in any order you want to. You can access the powers in any order you want to. However, going in certain orders will make for the greatest gaining of energy to help you bring into any activity or maneuver you want to do. So two main ones here are like the consciousness pathway, which we talked about, which was the the Xy, the Nai, the Vi, the Xy, and then the Xy, the Ni, the Vi, and the Z. So when you do it in that order, it will be easier to use powers that might be far away, might be a bit of modulation, because you brought momentum and understanding to it. So you built it up, you built that steam up. However, the consciousness hierarchy is not actually the hierarchy of most influence in the psyche. The hierarchy of most influence in the psyche is what we call the energetic hierarchy. And that has to do with what corridors, what channels take precedence in the psyche. However, that's different than what powers are on your conscious, and what your ranking of conscious and unconscious powers are. So as a Xyy'nai, your top energetic power is still the power of Xy, but the second energetic power would be the power of Xy. So even though the power of Xy is unconscious, it has nearly equal influence in the psyche as the Xy does, and really it's sort of equal, except that the Xy is conscious and takes lead in the dance. For you, so for you as a Xyy'nai, the Xy will take lead. Continuing on to your next energetic power, that would be the power of Nai, because the interpretive channel is the next most important channel for you. But that means then that the next power from that, the fourth energetic ranking, would be the power of Ni, which is another unconscious power like the Xy. So it's unconscious, but it's part of your interpretive channel, which is the second ranked channel. And next for you is the power of Vi, and after the Vi is the unconscious power of Vi. And then you have the polar power of Xy, and then the furthest away as far as energetics is going to be the polar of Z. As a Xyy'nai, you can access all your powers to do all kinds of things, but you'll always be working with that consciousness hierarchy rank of how much you can directly go for them, in energetic rank on the level of influence the power has based on the channel it's in. So the range is incredible, but the more you're working with your design, the more you're able to understand it, the more you're able to access your powers and do the incredible things that you can do. Once you know how they work, the more powerful and developed you'll be. So know yourself, grow yourself, save the world.